everybody, Ty here. We are on the cusp of what is potentially going to be a pretty rough next couple of days here. We have moderate risk issued for both today and tomorrow. Tomorrow is very alarming, but today also has gotten a bit of an uptrend as well. We just recently got an upgrade on the tornado threat here. This 15% area came in late last night, and this unfortunately includes the St. Louis metro area. So we do have the chance of maybe some significant tornadoes being close to heavily populated areas. Obviously, there's no guarantee that this will indeed verify, but I have to tell you guys, and I'm going to be quite frank with you, these parameters are looking better and better with each model run. I don't say that to scare anyone or hype up events. If you followed me for a long time on this channel, you know that I'm not into doing that at all. But I want to make sure that you know that in this case, the threat looks pretty real. I hate to say that too. There is a little bit of suspicion on my part that I do think that they could extend that moderate risk a little further to the south. I'm not entirely sure, but it would not surprise me one bit if we even see as far south as maybe even Memphis get involved here. Like again, not to scare anyone, but based off parameters that I'm seeing on models, we need to be watchful of that. Despite the tornado threat being so high, it's actually damaging when that is the main threat. We have a 45% area and a very large one at that could be coming in here. This hatched risk means that damage wind potential could be, we could be dealing with winds as high as 70 miles an hour or more with some of these storms. So the downdrafts you have to be watchful of, along with the tornado threat. The hail threat is also very palpable as well, with a very large hatch risk and a 30% area across the Midwest here in particular. Go over towards day two. A lot of people have been speculating that later today we could even see a high risk for this area. No guarantees with that, but if I'm being completely frank, it would not surprise me at all given the fact that we've been seeing these parameters hold out consistently. In fact, if anything, it looks like they've extended this area off to the east a little bit, which is concerning, especially for me because I live in Atlanta. But in any case, though, if we're looking at tornado potential all the way through the enhanced risk area into the moderate risk, there is a hatched risk right now. I'm particularly interested in this corridor over here, especially towards south central Mississippi into central Alabama. I do think that the tornado threat looks like it's going to be highs right now. There may be a little bit of variance in model data here, so this could shift north with the moderate risk here, and then a potential high risk could still be in that area that I've spoken of. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that there. If there is going to be an upgrade, I would expect it to be this afternoon, if anything. Notice the wind threat is also very high towards this region as well. Very similar to today's threat in some way, shape, or form, but the threat of supercells as of right now looks to be a little bit higher. Also, despite Dixie Alley not being known for a big time hail region, there is a large 30% area that we're going to be watching. The threat on Saturday for hail probably is going to be most likely early, I would say. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at these models here. We're going to kind of just race through this because I don't have a lot of time before I go to work. So this is our trough. This is what's going to be causing our severe weather. And we've been looking at this for over a week now, honestly. We've known that the environment as far as the wind profile is concerned has been unbelievable. Here's our reinforcing trough to come in for Saturday here. And this is, of course, the most concerning day. You can only imagine what this could have been like if this was its own lone trough. But in any case, looks like in both cases, the peak of the severe weather threat looks to be more so in the evening hours and maybe even into the overnight, in particular for Friday. So that's the upper air maps that we're looking at. We're looking a little bit closer towards the middle part of the atmosphere. It's important to look at all levels of the atmosphere when it comes to severe weather for multiple reasons. You can get a good idea of turning of the winds with height. You can get a good idea of lift sources like the short waves, which we're looking at here through these contour lines. These are very well pronounced, by the way, for not only tonight, but again, tomorrow. There could even be an overnight threat, and with that, maybe even an early morning threat too to go with it. So Like I said, there's a lot going on with this setup here for these next couple of days. In particular, though, I'm interested in Saturday morning in particular, and not for the reason that you might think. Yes, there would be potential for a threat there, but I would also go as far as to say that that might be one of our only fail parameters left over. If we have any sort of pre-existing morning convection that could limit these storms, but the thing is, though, the kinematic environment, this wind profile, especially at the lower levels, more than likely will be enough to overcome it. So I really hate saying that because, like I said, I don't like hyping up events at all. But this looks likely. I hate to say it, but in any case, though, you can see the moisture return, and there has been a very notable uptrend over towards the Midwest here. Like I said, I've been kind of on the fence with this region, but models have been getting more and more consistent as we've gotten closer to range here. And there is still a chance that some of this moisture could advect further up towards the north. So I wouldn't rule out Iowa at this point. I mainly think that's going to be damaging wind threat due to the fact that the moisture is going to be a little bit dry over here. Storms going to be more elevated. But even so, as we saw before, the damaging wind threat is going to be to a point where it could be just as dangerous as a tornado in a sense. Maybe not of the strong to violent tornado variety, but still, damaging winds are extremely dangerous and should not be downplayed whatsoever. Of course, as we get into Saturday, we already know the score with this. There is a ridiculous amount of moisture available. I mean, the Gulf has always been an incredible moisture source when it comes to severe weather, and of course, towards the deep south, being close proximity to it, I mean, it's no question that we're going to have plenty of moisture available, even as we get into the overnight hours. Look at this, 65 plus degree dew points, almost is the average, I would say, at this point in time. So let's go ahead and get into the instability here. And this is where I've been really becoming more concerned. I've been seeing a greater uptrend in regards to the environment here. And as a result, the tornado threat's going to be increasing again over towards that St. Louis area, especially as we get towards sunset and beyond here. As we get later into the evening, look at that spike in Cape over here just outside of Little Rock as well. So if we get any storms that mature over this environment, well, I think you can imagine what we're likely to see, and there you go. PDS tornado sounding because of the wind profile being just as profound as it's ever been, I would say, in this case. And then, of course, we don't even need to really make too much mention as in regards to what we see for Saturday here. As you can see, we have 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram on Cape. To put in perspective for you, 1,000 is usually sufficient enough, and that's in the blue. And you even see that up towards these regions over towards Indiana and Ohio. So that's an area that we're going to have to also watch throughout the day. A lot of you guys know that I will be live for this, but in either case here, this is looking over towards Ohio. And as you can see, even though it looks like a linear mode, there's still good potential for tornadoes. And the wind profile definitely highlights that in this case. So a lot of people are talking about the southeast. You do also need to keep an eye on the Ohio Valley as well. As we get later into the day, then the southeast starts to take over as the dominant threat. And even as we get into the overnight hours, we still have a great deal of instability left over. So it's going to be one of these potentially long duration events where long track tornadoes do seem possible, dare I say even likely at this point. So whether you're in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, you need to be on watch for all modes of severe weather, and especially watchful for the potential of a few tornadoes, some of which could be of the strong to violent variety. So one feature that I don't really use much on this channel, I intend to use it more, is the Energy Helicity Index. This has a great view of the overall environment as a whole here. And of course, this is a pretty simple metric here. The higher the value, the greater the probability of severe weather here. Usually a 1 is a good value. We're seeing 4s, 5s, 6s, and even beyond pretty easily here. So this is another reason why the concern is so high. And I think, even like I said, even with the morning convection on Saturday, I think it would be enough. I think the overall environment itself would still be enough to get significant severe weather out of this. And like I said, that energy helicity does not drop off into the overnight here. I'm looking towards my area, and this would be right around midnight at this point. You still have the energy helicity of 1 here. Even though this sounding has a little contamination in there, which are these little red lines. Just look at that wind profile being shown on the hodiograph here, which I'm showing, which I'm kind of pointing at here. Look at that. We easily have really strong low-level shear here based off this little loop on the hodiograph. Whenever you see a loop like that, that's usually trouble, especially if it really rides up this y-axis here, where it's up going up like this and then turning that way. You always have to be watchful of that. So, like I said, a lot of dangerous looking signals on here. In any case, though, we're going to wrap this up very quickly. We have a ridiculous looking line of storms here by the time we get into the late evening hours tonight. And this is where our tornado threat is likely to start. We do have a few prefrontal cells here that make their way towards western Tennessee and western Kentucky as well. They need to be watched very closely as we get later into the evening. We already see what's likely to be our first round of storms. And then here's actually that morning convection that everyone is talking about here. You see that go through, but notice how that kind of clears out. And then eventually we end up getting this secondary zone firing from that reinforcing trough. And now this is where things get kind of wacky here. I'm going to zoom in on this real quick so you can see it as well. I'm going to look at this time frame in particular. I'm going to go back towards loop so that way you can see the madness that I'm seeing here. So this is that morning convection again, and then look at this. These are all discrete supercells right here that are showing up on the models here. And most models have been highlighting this as well. So a lot of people are saying that the convective mode from this morning from the Saturday morning setup could be a fail mode. I'm not sure if I'm buying it just yet. I'd love for it to be true, because this is a dangerous look. I've only seen this with outbreaks in previous times. So again, not trying to scare anyone, but we need to be very, very attentive today and tomorrow, especially tomorrow as well, over towards the southeast. Watch these storms go through later into the evening. Does weaken a little bit, but but with the amount of energy that's available, damaging winds, tornadoes, hail, still pretty likely at this point. So everybody, make sure you're staying weather aware. Take care of each other. I will see you guys very soon. Until then, you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you this afternoon.